Hey guys, this is Feeding Frenzy 91, and I'm bringing you another Walking Dead character bio. And I know I've been behind on these since I've been making other videos, but since the next season is coming out pretty soon, I want to try to get through as much of these as I can. And so last time we had Duck. So since we're going in the order that they died in and not the order they actually appeared, the next one on the list would be Chuck.
Charles, if you fancy.
We first meet Chuck inside the box cart, but even though apparently he met our group initially. And Chuck is actually, you appear, you don't know who he is, but you knew that someone was living there and you kind of just assumed that it was him. He, of course, asks you if you touched anything, you can choose to lie or not lie or whatever. But Chuck, obviously, he's dirty, which is very cool in a sense that they actually show that, like, he's a homeless guy, doesn't bathe or anything. He's right there just, like, look at his face, just covered in muck and stuff. So Chuck, you can actually take him or leave him based on what your just perception of this guy would be. He actually starts off really cool, which is an indication. Let's just face it. Anyone who is cool in this game, something bad happens to them, something terrible. I mean, come on. Happened with Mark. He died. His guy's legs chopped off and died. Happened with Duck. After Duck had his whole cool part with him, being Robin, he died. He basically just got bit and then he died. It happened with Chuck, obviously, and it happened with Omid. He didn't die. But come on, for almost a whole episode, Omid is basically paralyzed because of his leg. So something bad always happened to someone who is cool. And what I mean by cool, I don't mean someone who can choose to be cool like Lily or Kenny. You can choose to be cool with them. Someone who is cool in general, who will be cool with Lee no matter what. Glenn was one of them, Mark was the other, and Chuck is the third. Alright, Chuck may be a homeless guy, but he also is very smart. Like, he said he actually memorized all the train directions in his head, which is actually shows brain power. Also, Chuck had a family out there somewhere, but we don't know where they are. We never meet them, and they don't really do a backstory enough. Chuck also is very caring. He immediately notices Duck. He notices Clementine. He gives them candy. He even gives Ben candy, and he just is just this guy who gets in the group, and he just is like a team player from the very get-go, even though you wouldn't expect it since he's a homeless guy. I mean, he's been living by himself according to him for 14 years. So you wouldn't expect him to be a team player, which he actually is a big team player. And he also gives us one of the best advices in the whole game.
And if something were to happen to you,
It won't.
if it were, you gotta prepare the girl. Teach her to use a weapon, and for crime, he cut that hair.
I mean, come on. I mean, how did they not think that before? I mean, cut Clementine's hair. I mean, teach her how to use a weapon. They're still treating her like a little girl, but Chuck is like, no, you can't do that. And I thought that advice should have been pretty obvious to the members of the group. Of course, only Chuck tells you that, and it really shows how he is very intuitive and he understands what's going on while everybody else is kind of living in this whole fantasy of where adults, kids. No, everybody's just a person. So it really spoke to Chuck's character, and the fact that he looked out for Clementine first actually spoke to how his priorities were. Like, it's this little girl. The fact that he looked after Duck initially too was like, this little guy, this little girl. You got to pay attention to them first. He even calls Ben a kid, which is actually, I'm sorry, but Ben was probably less useful than most of the kids. I'm sorry to Ben, but he was less useful than most of the kids in this game. Chuck is an alcoholic, but I mean, come on, he's a homeless guy. That kind of comes with the territory. Well, from many homeless guys, I'm not being prejudiced, but I'm just saying. But the fact that he's an alcoholic actually speaks more to his mental problems, and even though he doesn't have a family, he speaks about losing a little girl.
And seeing another little girl die might just do me in.
Could that have been his daughter? Could that have been someone who was close to him? According to Wiki, he actually had a wife and child before this, so that could have been his daughter who died, maybe in the zombie outbreak, maybe, but I doubt it since he's been on his own for 14 years. Maybe she died beforehand. We don't know. But it would explain why Chuck would completely sacrifice himself for Clementine. I mean, in episode 4, he goes out because he protected Clementine when Ben, someone who's been with her from like a while back, didn't. And Ben was basically Clementine's best friend after Duck died, and he wouldn't protect her. But Chuck, this guy who just met her, would. And let's face it, Chuck had one of the most epic lines in this whole episode.
Ask not for whom the bell tolls.
What are you yammering on about?
It tolls for thee.
So Chuck, all in all, he's a really breath of fresh air, especially in an episode where there was so much sadness. To meet this guy who's just in general cool, no matter what you do, it just was just I think that was supposed to be. It was just supposed to be like, let's just meet this guy who's just cool. Okay, let's just have him there. And then they kill him off in 4 without really giving us a chance to know about him. We get hints about his life, but we don't know much about his life. So they really just kind of threw Chuck in there and said, let him be cool for a bit, then let him die. I mean, I'm pretty sure Chuck lasted shorter than Mark, even though Mark was only in 1 episode. So, and then finding him in the sewer like that is was pretty disturbing. I mean, he only has half a body, and the fact that he committed suicide to prevent himself from reanimating was also kind of disturbing in a sense. But still, Chuck was a pretty cool guy. To sum it up, I really think the fact that Chuck kind of predicts his own fate, with the whole "it told for thee," it told for him. That bell told for him. Had Molly not rang the bell, Chuck would probably not have been dead. So that was really cool. I love how they do that in Walking Dead, that they have it where they kind of speak their own fate in a sense. Anyway, that's Chuck. Well, next time we'll be doing another character, obviously. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and God bless.